Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are so glad to have you here. We're going to be talking about marketing again today, Andrea. So I'm
Yes, good
super pumped for
morning.
this one. It is
Me
morning time for
too.
Andrea and I here. So we're still getting through our morning coffee. So bear with us as we jumpstart. And those of you who might be tuning in from the other end of the globe, we hope to keep you awake. Maybe tune in for some more coffee as well. So quite a few folks, man, I don't know why comments are just going berserk today. So Ashley tuning in from South Carolina, Alan from Detroit, Michigan, Margie from Calgary, David. See, David, I have to tell you something. When I think and I see David Roth, I think of David Lee Roth from Van Halen. So
I'm
sorry,
sure that's not the first time he's heard that before.
that's who I thought. I'm like, we got David Lee Roth on the stream. So all right, let's rock on. Take us back to our '80s roots. So
Yep.
oh, Andrea, what's the weather like where you're at? It's finally like the 90-degree days are done for us. So
Yeah, it's actually nice and beautiful today. Pretty tolerable.
good, 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 good. I had to put a sweatshirt on this morning. It was down in I think it hit 49 last night. So David's right with us. So we'll give. We need to get David his own like emoji. His rock
Right.
star emoji. We'll get him one of those. So David, glad to have you. Those of you who might be lurking in the background, we welcome you to the show as well. We're excited. Again, we're going to be talking about marketing. This is Andrea and I could geek out all day long, and we're really going to geek out with our guests today, I think. So,
Oh, yeah.
what are you looking forward to most about with having Claire on the show that you think the tribe's most going to benefit from today?
Well, first of all, Claire is just a lovely human overall. Just love working with her. And I think just people ask about this topic quite a bit, just, hiring someone to help with marketing in general. So I think she's going to drop a few really good bombs on everybody today. So I'm
Exactly.
just really
The
excited about it.
nimble MSPs inside the tribe. We need as much help as we can get, especially when it comes to something that I think a lot of us weren't comfortable with or still aren't comfortable with to this day. So
Mhm.
please help us welcome to the show Miss Claire Jenks.
Woo!
See, see, I didn't tell you about that. So I was a little surprise for you.
I love it.
Oh, Claire, it is so nice to have you. I'm happy that we get to connect. I feel like we've kind of danced around on social, danced around inside the tribe, but never met. So this is my first live stream with you, and it's an honor to be on a stream with you today.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor for me too, with both of you.
Yeah. So I found out too, Claire is living the van life today. So I have super respect for what she's doing and just out of adventurous, living it up. Where are you at right now?
I'm currently in Scotland, in the middle of Scotland, being battered around a little bit with the backlash of a hurricane. So
Oh,
it's definitely an adventure, but it's a beautiful one.
Super
perfect.
cool.
So those of you who are tuning in, if you have questions for Claire, go ahead and type the letter Q colon and ask the questions in the chat. We'll try to answer those either as we go or we might save some for the end as well. But we want to make sure we get your questions answered, especially while we've got Claire live. Excellent resource about hiring, getting that marketing sidekick. I like that terminology, the marketing sidekick. So,
Mhm.
and yes, this is going to be recorded. Those of you who are watching live, as soon as the stream goes off the air, about 5 minutes later, you'll be able to click the rewind button and go watch this all over again. But if you're watching this on the replay, that's cool too. We love you too. So Andrea's going to start off with our conversation around hiring a marketing sidekick and some tips and tricks and things that we want to maybe gotcha us to think about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, MSPs have a lot of questions around this, but one of the things I think comes up is how do you know when it's really finally time to make the move and go all in and hire someone?
Yeah, and it's a really good question. I see it a lot popping up in the tribe and also at the meetups as well that I attend around the
Hmm.
UK especially. Um, and I think the first important thing to note is that marketing should be a core activity from day one of your business. So you should be doing some marketing activity. So don't hold off doing any marketing until you make that hire. It should be done on day one. And I think that's an important thing just to put out there because quite often people go, I'm not going to do marketing yet because I've not got the right person in.
Hmm.
It's make sure you've started with it because that will actually help you further down the line. It's getting new clients doesn't happen overnight, whether that's you doing it or you're hiring in. So I'd say the moment you have budget, you should be looking to then hire. Because if you're doing it all
Hmm.
yourself, especially if you are an nimble MSP, then your habu or the best high value of your time should be spent doing where your zone of genius is. So as soon as you've got that budget, I would say delegate out your marketing, whether that's in-house or outsource. Um, but it is think about it day one. That's the first time you should start doing the marketing. When you've got the budget, then outsource. Marketing tends to be the last thing to hire for, but the first thing to fire when it comes to having the
Hmm.
budget around. As soon as you have to cut costs, marketing goes. And it's like, okay, no, that's a really important thing. So think about it as being a core part of your business. Um, and I think as well, something else to mention about the right time is hire when you know what the goals are that you're looking to achieve and you know your purpose. Because without those goals, you're going to hire someone for marketing and you could go off on a tangent or you're not going to be able to get the results that you need. So be clear on what it is that you want to achieve as well when it comes to marketing and your business in general. I'd say so.
That's such a good point. Absolutely. I think setting those goals, taking the time to actually sit down and come up with what those goals are before you even think about hiring that person. Absolutely, 100%. So once you've decided you are going to go out and find this person, what are those first steps that you should take to actually go and find them? And then where do you look? Where do you even start to look to try and find that right person?
That can feel so overwhelming. I think for
Yeah.
a lot of people, there's so many different avenues. And I think lots of people have different experiences as well. So lots of people share the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to, especially around marketing, I feel. And I think that comes back to that first step is knowing the goals and what you're trying to achieve yourself. If as soon as you've got that straight, then you can take those first steps. Um, and I think the first step is really understanding exactly what you're looking for and what you're needing help with when it comes to marketing. There's so many resources within the tribe and other places to help you see what sort of activities you could do, what resources that you can use. Um, and marketing is such a big area that quite a lot of the questions I get asked is, should I be just doing general marketing? Should I be doing SEO? Should I just be updating my website? Should I be doing blog? Should I be doing video? Should I be doing podcast? I just go, all of this stuff. Um, if you're doing no marketing, or you've got that first step and you're looking to help bring someone in to hire, work out what it is you've actually doing already and share that with them and see who might suit. Are you looking for someone who you need to execute a strategy? Have you got a strategy and a plan already in place? Do you need help implementing it? Do you need help managing? And they're the three different areas I'd look at because they're very different people and very different skills. So, for example, I come in as a marketing manager, and quite often the MSPs I work with already have an SEO agency. They may have a web developer, and they've already got those kind of resources in place, and that was their first step. So that's the management level. But you might need someone who can just start implementing and executing on some of the tribal marketing packs, for example. Be really specific about what it is you need and the help that you need before then you go. And I step back a little bit because I think it's like any role in your business.
Mhm.
It's what is it that you're hiring for, and what do you want out of them? What's the results you want to get? And that's no different with marketing. So before you go off to Upwork and search for marketing, you'll get all these different people that are SEO experts, ad experts, social media experts. So have a think about what it is that you want to achieve and who it is, what skills you need to hire, and then you've got a bit more direction. If you need to understand who at that point, because there is this overwhelm, ask away in the forums because people will be able to help you out, or take that first step and hire someone who can help you put a plan in place, that then you can go and look for those specific people to help execute that plan. And that would be the first step for me that I would suggest to people. Because when you start to look for people, you can ask around for recommendations, you can look on Upwork. We've talked about hiring in as well, so you could start to look at apprentices. There's so many different avenues, but unless you know what you're looking for help with, you could end up down a keep going and going and going, never going to find the right person. So I'd get clear on first your goals, what it is you're trying to achieve, what skill sets you need, what it is that you want to achieve by bringing someone into your business, whether that's outsourced or hiring internally, and then go to those three places with a good idea of this is the person I want, this is the skills they need, and then share with the people that you're speaking to about what it is that you expect. Upfront, I think, is a important thing.
I think that's good because I think if I'm a nimble MSP just starting out, I really haven't done any marketing, and I tell myself I need an admin because I've done this. I need an admin who can just maybe manage my email, maybe do a few things that I don't want to do, but then all of a sudden, okay, since I already have you here, what can you help me do the marketing? So, what would you say around the challenges of that? What have you seen?
Yeah, and this is a really good point because it's very easy to then, if you have got admin VA, for example, it's very easy to then go, yeah, you can do this and you can do this and you can do this. I would look for a specialist marketing VA for anything marketing wise. The
Perfect.
admin VA might be able to do something. And again, that comes back to what processes you might already have in place. You may need someone to help you create those processes. You may be starting with nothing.
Right.
So I would say find a specialist marketing VA for the marketing things and let the admin VA focus on their zone of genius. I've
Yeah.
seen it happen with other areas as well. So their admin VA is now being told to look at management accounts. And it's
Right.
like, no, that's not what I'm here for. So if I
Right.
get someone who's going to be purely focused, again, one of the benefits that I always say to people who are looking at this and say go for a marketing specialist VA, that's their zone of genius and that's all they're focusing on. So whether
Yeah.
you're outsourcing or hiring in, that person is going to focus on marketing. They're not going to get taken into all the other weeds of the business and then distracted from their purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have got admin VA, I'd leave them to focus on their zone of genius and get marketing VA in for the marketing work.
Perfect. Alan had a question around that. So he said, what is the person's title that we would look to contract hire that could tell to take all the awesome materials we have in the tech tribe and put them into use? So what would be the title you would be looking for, maybe on Upwork or Fiverr or just any other VA?
Yeah, that's a really good one because there is all sorts of weird and wonderful job titles out there these days that never existed once upon a time.
Yeah.
I would start with marketing assistant.
Marketing
That's where I
assistant.
would start with. If you're looking for someone who can um, do a little bit of the skills that are needed there. So if you need to set, there's two different ways, isn't there? Especially with Tech Tribe marketing packs as well, because some of it is already automated. So you could get someone in to help set up that project and set the system up rolling. So then it's there for you. I would then hire in someone to manage it and then do all the other little bits around it. And that the best starting place would be marketing assistant.
Love
If you
that.
are looking on Upwork, dive into their profile a little bit more, have a look at examples and see if they touch on some of those keywords, such as uploading blogs, social media management. It's if you look for those keywords and have a conversation with them and look for examples, that'll set you off on a good journey, I think, around that specific activity anyway.
Perfect. So I think there's a difference from what you're saying. There's a difference between a marketing manager and a marketing assistant. So
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's our goal. We as MSPs, we want them to manage everything, but I think someone with your skill set is not going to want to do the, maybe taking the marketing packs and changing text, or that would be more of an assistant's role. Um,
Yeah. So I see it as, I do help with some of that side. But we also look at the strategy side. So the marketing manager would have more of that strategy and tactical approach,
yeah,
whereas the assistant tends to be better at following the process that's outlined
gotcha.
for them.
Yeah, a manager
And
can
that's the way I
create the
tend to approach
process.
it.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yep. And a marketing assistant might not be able to get that. It might not be to that level. So
yeah, that's right. They're kind of, and again, this is from the way that I've worked. I've just hired a marketing assistant to assist me in my business. And she's rolling through all the processes that we've put in place. And they're very much about getting things over the line and being able to tick stuff off and make sure the processes are complete. The manager can juggle a lot more plates and look at the overall goal of the business. So one of the first things I do when I go into businesses is ask them about what is their business goal, what are they wanting to achieve, so that we can make sure everything is aligned. I'd be more proactive in that. Whereas if you're looking for a marketing assistant to start off, I would take that to them because they're less likely to ask about it directly.
right. So I think, too, what would you, if somebody's not ever done this before, hired a marketing assistant, would you recommend they kind of maybe do a virtual assistant, maybe just do it on a contract basis? Or do you think, what have you seen as your experiences? Is it maybe easier to bring in maybe somebody who might be in your hometown, might be a college student that just wants to get their foot in the door working for a company doing marketing stuff?
Yeah, there's lots of different avenues. And again, I think it depends on how your business is set up and how you're set up. So I've seen it work perfectly well remotely, as long as you know you're touching base. What I would recommend is don't just throw stuff at this new hire and expect them to run with it. Kind of keep that, don't just throw it
Mhm.
out the gate.
Okay,
It's
I'm
really
gonna zoom in
important.
on that one. You need to say that one more time. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
don't abdicate responsibility. Don't just throw stuff at them and expect them to run with it. And that is whether it's an assistant or a management level. It's really important that you have input into what they're doing, not
Mhm.
necessarily doing it or having all of the answers, but at least having that check-in. So whether that's someone you've hired into your business, have those team meetings, whether it's a college student who's coming in part-time or whether it's someone outsourced remotely. Make sure you've got those touch points because that's how the momentum builds up. And especially around the first few months, depending on who that is, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but it takes a little while for someone to really understand your business, your brand, your tone of voice, like all of those things.
Mhm.
So whether that's in person or remote, those check-in meetings are really important because the more they understand your business and the services and what you're doing, even if they're just following processes, the better delivery they're going to give you and the better results you're going to see.
perfect.
But I do think you can, if there's a college student, I've had people that have hired in college students, they've gone down the apprentice route and ended up hiring full time after that. Um, Again, going through Upwork or asking around and hiring someone like myself. So there's lots of different avenues. I think it depends on understand how you work, how much of that interaction do you prefer to be in person? Some people just do. Again, I go on site with a client once a month because they want that in-person strategy plan, whereas some of the others are quite happy to do it remotely. So think about how you want to work and think about them, whether they're hiring internal or outsourced. Think about them as part of your team. They're just an extended part of your team. So think about how you currently work with your employees, and use that similar roadmap for them too.
So Claire, because the skill set of the marketing assistant is more of a tactical type role, where they're more implementing those pieces, if you will, of the marketing campaigns and things like that, you still have to have a marketing strategy in place, like a big picture strategy. So if you don't have that marketing manager, marketing director role in place, would you say then that that strategy piece does have to fall back on the MSP to make sure that that bigger strategy is still there? Like,
It's a
what
funny
would
one,
your,
right?
yeah, right? Because there still needs to be a strategy, right? You've got to have a big picture
Yeah,
outlined, right? Okay. I
absolutely.
just
There
want to make
has
sure
to be
that
a
point isn't
plan.
lost out there, you know?
Yeah, there has to be a plan. And I think that's where quite a lot of the overwhelm and uncertainty can come with
Mm-hmm.
marketing, because if you haven't got a plan, you're just doing all of this stuff, or it feels
Stuff.
like you're
Yeah,
doing stuff and
right.
not necessarily getting results or really understanding what you're doing. So I do think it's important to have that strategy. And there's different places that you can look for that. So I know there's different resources that Tech Tribe have as well to give them that idea of the marketing 101, to start giving them an idea about what marketing is and who they're trying to target, what their message is. There's a few different resources out there. If you've got the budget to speak to a marketing strategist or someone who can help you put that together, that I would recommend doing as well, because it means that someone can come into your business, see it from the outside, and it can be a one-off project for them to say, this is the strategy, and then you can fit all the other things around
Sure.
it, and you've got a good foundation then. But I think it is a really good point, because it can feel overwhelming when you haven't got that foundation, that plan to go forward with.
Right.
And also to review in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, a year's time. Do you review and go, oh yeah, we're still on the same plan, or have we gone off on tangent and now we're doing videos that we never said we would do? We're not quite sure who we're targeting them at, but I'm just doing stuff, so it's fine, right?
Right. And to that point, like once you do hire a marketing assistant, like how long do you think you should give them to sort of get up to speed and like know that the stuff they're doing is actually working? Like what do you typically see?
Yeah, so I think that comes down to a lot of, again, we'll go back to those goals. What are the objectives?
Mm-hmm.
What are you wanting to get out of that? Um, One of the things I do say is take a few months for them to really understand your brand, how you're working, get that flow started, because they're coming in, whether internal or outsourced. I'm trying to cover both sides because they're both
Mm-hmm.
ultimate ways forward. It'll take them some time to get up to speed, to just know who the business is and what you talk about, what your services are. Even simple things like, we don't touch Macs in our business. Okay, well, we've noted that. We don't do any content that are around Macs. Simple things like that that take a bit of time to understand. So I'd allow a bit of embedding in period and not expect a load of leads in the first month. And I think that's where some of the frustration and misunderstanding comes from, is that, right, we've hired someone to do marketing. It's been 30 days. We haven't got any leads. We haven't got any new clients. What's gone wrong? And it does take time. It's a long-term game, especially in this industry, depending on what marketing avenues you're going down. And I'm trying very hard not to go into all the marketing tactics and things because there's been lots of other videos on those ones. But allow some time and be consistent with it. So I say 3 months to start embedding in and to really get that machine going. 6 months is when you're going to see that consistency, up to a year, even onwards sometimes. It very much depends on what the objective is. And be kind to your marketing assistant. Don't go, I haven't had any leads through, it's all your fault, you're not doing a great job. It's not necessarily their job to get leads.
Yeah.
It depends on their objective and what they've been brought in for. I'm very objective focused. So with some clients, we may say, right, our objective is to get 100 testimonials in 3 months' time. That's our objective. It's got nothing to do with the lead side of things. But our bigger goal of the business is to get X amount of new clients. But we've broken it down into smaller objectives, which we know building those little objectives will lead to that big one. So just be kind on your marketing assistant and don't fire them after month 1. Please. Andrew's laughing. I think he experiences.
I've done it, and it's like I've coached it, and like I found, I remember the first marketing ad, and again I did the thing where I need an admin just to come into the office, file things, check my email, reply back, and then I was like, oh, I'm part of this marketing toolkit. Hey, can you start doing this stuff for me? And yeah, it was frustrating. Again, I expected them to come up with a plan, just take all the stuff, make sense of it, and then actually implement it. And I felt bad. I feel back and now. She was a college student. It was a friend of mine. She was a college student, just wanted to break into marketing at some point, but she was really good at admin stuff. So yeah, I've been there and I've done it. That's why I'm laughing, because I would just shake my head at myself sometimes.
And that's a great example, like we've touched on it. If then you've got someone who's doing all of these different things, their context shifting so much that it's not going to be as impactful, and you're not going to get that momentum as if you would if you were focusing, one person was just focusing on marketing. So yeah, you can talk from experience there.
Yeah. So Andrea, so with the tech drivers, from what you've seen as well, what would you say the primary objective for hiring a marketing assistant for 98% of the folks that are in the tribe? What should be their objective in that first 3 to 6 months?
Their objective, I would think, is getting some processes in place and
I
getting
agree.
something that's continually nurturing some prospects.
Yeah.
would be ideal, like the marketing packs, like the newsletters.
It's an easy
be
place to
perfect.
start. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So so you've seen that experience, Claire, where
Mhm.
a marketing assistant could totally handle that. Again, that gives them time to figure out, where everything's at, what to do with everything, what is the process. So
Mhm.
And the processes are a really important thing, I
y-
think, to
yeah,
focus on, because they're repeatable tasks. And
yeah,
we know we love documentation in this industry.
Mhm.
So I'd say document those processes within your business as well, because that can help set you up for future as well, whether it's that marketing assistant walks away and you get a new one, or that marketing assistant rises up to marketing manager and now they've got SOPs to pass down to the marketing assistant, and you're constantly building out that side of your business as well. And I think that's the way you get that consistency. And if you're doing it yourself at the starting point,
yeah.
that just helps you keep your head clear and you go, right, yeah, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. So yeah, keep those
Yeah.
processes are really important, I think.
Yeah, so if you're an MSP, maybe just starting an MSP, that might be where you start. You might be the
Mhm.
marketing admin. So why not create those processes? This is how to download the marketing packs. This is
Mhm.
how to do the newsletter. Like, then it makes it so much easier to, when you hire that first admin, here, just do this. I've documented it all for
Mhm.
you. That's again, you're setting them up for
Absolutely.
success, and it's a win-win for everybody. So
Yeah, because that hiring, depending on whichever route you go, can take time.
yeah,
And if you bring someone in, you could have all the goals and all the objectives and everything you want lined up. But if you haven't got the time to onboard them or give them a little bit of here's where you need to go and this is what we're expecting, it it'll fail because you're not
yeah,
setting them up for success. You're not setting your business up for success.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can document any of those processes, then you're onto a winner.
yeah, for sure.
So, question that we probably have gotten before, and I'm sure you get all the time, is where do you even start with a budget for this kind of person? Like, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to how long's a piece of string. It's like one
Right?
of those
Yeah,
questions.
exactly.
I mean, you've got various budgets and costs across the world. You've got various different skill sets.
Yeah.
I think it's worth looking at. I'd say any budget is a good budget to start with when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
Um, Ask around within it. Again, it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking at hiring in? That's full time. That's obviously a very different cost to
Mm-hmm.
outsourcing. If you're just starting to build out kind of that marketing function of your business, you might look at going down the outsourcing route first. Then you can work out how many hours and things and build and build and build from there. If you're I say it's such a difficult one to answer because you've got, I'm going to put it into English money here because that's what I can go to. Or I'll try to put it to dollars. If you're paying $3 an hour over here, up to $1,500 a month over here, you're going to vary. I think it
Mm-hmm.
depends on what the objectives are. We'll keep coming back to this. What are the objectives and what skill set have you got? If you're going
Mm-hmm.
to look for someone who's a higher skill set, who's going to put more time into your business, you're going to be paying more. If it's someone who can follow those processes to start with, then you're likely to get on the lower end. But it's
Right.
balancing that quality, quantity, time, value. And I think the value very much comes down to the business owner and how much value they put on marketing. I can sit here and go, it's one of the most valuable areas of your business. But if I then go, right, you're going to have to give me £2,000 a month, they're going to go, what? What am I going to get for that? And then they start going into all the detail. And I've noticed that
Yeah.
from various different experiences. Um, it's don't try and compare apples and pears. And MSPs will have seen this when they're with their own kind of prospects. They're trying to compare one MSP to the other, and it's completely different because they approach things slightly differently and they include different things. I know from my experience that I approach my costs in one way, and it's very much objective value based. And I've been up against, and this is just from my experience to give people an idea of how different they can be. I've been up against another agency who will line item every activity. So they'll go, oh, we can get a video case study over here for £100. But if I come over to you, how many am I going to get for that monthly retainer? Well, it doesn't really work like that because it depends on what the objectives are and what that looks like. The activities will come off the back of the objectives. So be very careful when you are exploring budgets not to compare
Mm-hmm.
apples and pears. Look at what it is you're trying to achieve. Look at the different options. Speak to MSPs in your area if you're looking to hire in locally and see what they're charging. And again, value marketing slightly higher than you do already, please.
Yeah.
But it's a really
It's
difficult one to answer. It's a politician's answer
Yeah.
because it's
yeah,
so difficult to answer.
it's an
Um,
investment, not an expense, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It really is. And I think you can. So one of the things we suggest is, and some of the metrics can be vanity, but
Mm.
track those activities and start
Mhm.
aligning them to potential ROI. Some of them
Mhm.
are really difficult and they can't be directly. It depends on what activities you're taking place. You can't say this one blog post has brought in these 10 clients, because they'll have touched on so many different points up until that point. But keep an eye on some of those metrics, what activities you're doing, and make sure that that momentum is there and that value will come and that ROI will come in the long term. But look at what your budget is and look at what options are around for that budget. But find a budget
Mhm.
Yeah.
is what I'd say.
No, I definitely
So
think
important.
I totally agree with that too. Because if you're going to hire somebody that's just going to come in and maybe take, the marketing packs, maybe set up growably, get the automations in there so emails are going out, doing the blog posts, like that necessarily, like you mentioned, that's not going to automatically ring the cash register. And like that is going to be a process. And especially, I think, too, if the MSP hasn't done that, who is our target market exercise um, in the strategy, again, you're throwing darts at a wall hoping to hit a bullseye. And that's a very difficult task for anybody, whether just a regular entry level admin or a marketing manager to do. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely comes back to having that strategy
yeah.
in in place.
Mhm.
And I guess one of the other things to mention on budgets as well is, like you just mentioned, the may potentially is if you haven't got the budget to hire someone on an ongoing basis. And I might be put a bit of bias into there because we work on an ongoing basis because we like to build the relationships and grow with the business. Which again, I think when you're looking to hire someone, think about that. Think about, is this person someone who can embed into the business and grow with it and change the marketing strategy tactics as the business grows? Or is it a one and done? And we know marketing isn't a one and done, sit back and let the money roll in. But there may be little projects that you can start off with to at least start building those machines out. Um, Whether it is setting up the grow bit, okay, that started. Okay, right, next month we're going to put a little bit towards this next bit. Um, if budget's something
Mhm.
you're struggling with on that ongoing basis, have a look at what those smaller projects might be to be able to get those ducks in a row for someone to come in and really take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the part that overwhelms a lot of MSPs is, they see all the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing, but if you haven't set
Mhm.
that baseline foundation, I'm going to try to find it yesterday. I saw it. It was somebody had a bucket of ping pong balls, and it was a zoom shot. He's standing at the top of steps, and on the bottom was a Dixie cup, a little cup, and he poured out the golf balls or the ping pong balls at the top of the steps, and like none of them landed in that cup at the end. So there was like that's what we're doing with marketing when we don't
Mhm.
know what the end goal actually is, because we automatically think the end goal is I need more leads, which is going to get me more sales, and that's the admin's problem to solve. Like it's not. So
Yeah.
do,
And even the way I approach it is to layer up. So not to go all in and do 20 different activities at once. Like, we go in and layer up the campaign,
yep.
because then
Mhm.
we can make sure everything's set up and
Mhm.
consistent. We've got that bit working right now. Let's layer up this bit and let's layer up this bit. And I think that works really well. Again, I keep going back to Tech Tribe Resources just because I think they're great and it's set up in a way that those campaigns are all layered up.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
rather than trying to do everything, focus on getting one bit done, then the second, and it just helps with that overall overwhelm, especially with a marketing assistant as well. You can do that same process with them so that they're getting one bit, they've got that sorted, processes are documented, it's working. Right. Now let's add the next bit on and go from there.
Yeah, and I think
Mhm.
Stephen Pretlove touched on that too. Something is better than nothing, and consistency is key. I think that we all agree on
Definitely.
that one,
Mhm.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So let's talk about. We're going to switch gears. We talk without going like too deep in tactics and things. Like AI is all the rage, and that's the thing in the marketing industry right now. Is I don't need a marketing assistant. Don't need a marketing manager. I could just use ChatGPT. So, or what's Microsoft Copilot. So, what would your argument be the other way coming back around with that? If
Can I just do this?
she's like, that one's easy. So,
Yeah, that's my answer. Um, there are some awesome tools and platforms out there, and there's more and more and more of them. There's too many. I find that overwhelming. There's always a new shiny thing. What better do we like in this industry than new shiny things, right? Um, they are there to work with a human. They do
Mhm.
not replace human.
yeah,
Even with all the most amazing prompts in the world, it still needs tweaking, all the nuances changing. They're great for coming up with some basic ideas and then a very rough kind of like thought process. But then I highly recommend you go in and then bring the human touch to it.
Mhm.
We use some of the tools within the business as well, but it very much is a first step. And it's here's some ideas. Oh, actually, I hadn't thought about that angle. How can I tweak that then back to the business? And I'll write our own version of whatever it's trying to tell us, because half the time it makes stuff up, which I've found, which is quite fascinating.
I love that.
So if you're gonna
This is completely wrong. So,
yeah, but just throw it out there and see what happens, right? You can spot it a mile off. And if
yep.
I read another blog post that says, in this digital transformation age, um, it's there's always the same things that follow. I think they're a great tool to help, but please do not use it as a be all and end all when it comes to marketing. There's some good automation um, tools and things out there to help some of the efficiencies of creating some things, but don't rely on it.
Yeah. I agree. I think Andrew and I both can agree on that too. Like
Mhm.
ChatGPT is
Definitely.
not going to replace marketing at any point. So
Mm-mm.
Don't wipe us marketing people out. We're important.
so I mean I think that's key in in going back to that value proposition. I like that. Just kind of viewing it as an MSP a bit differently than they would hiring a tech. Because I think, okay, I can get a technician for $35,000 a year. So for me, when I look at it, it is in my old thinking as I started my last MSP, like I would be like, I'm not going to pay a marketing admin more than I'm going to pay a technician who can close tickets. So I like that marketing, like valuing it a bit differently. Like for me, viewing it now, a little bit older and wiser, I agree with that approach. I might want to hire an entry level marketing person for even the same amount that I would hire a technician because of what it's going to allow me to do if my goal is to grow and scale my business. So yeah, for me, like that's I think it would be worth at least the amount of an entry level technician. What are your thoughts on you?
Yeah, I think it's a really good I think it puts it out there and will hopefully help people change their mindset around it. Quite often, and we say just an admin as well. These
Right.
people are kind of the unsung heroes of a lot of businesses. It's just that the pay scale changes and the values all different around them. Um, but the marketing side has to be seen as a valuable asset. Don't be the last people to hire and the first people to fire,
Yeah.
because they really can bring. They're the people who are going to pay your technicians
Yeah.
salary. So if you've got that
Absolutely.
value around them,
Yeah,
then
because
yeah, definitely.
that was my first hire was an admin, and again, I regret throwing the marketing side on her. And I finally, figured that out. Okay, I took it upon myself to create that process. So, but it's some, an MSP who's just starting, or maybe they're tenured. They've been 8 to 10 years in the process, but still relying on referrals, still doing the normal stuff that we do as MSP. And just the thought of trying to implement the marketing, like just the thought of it is super overwhelming. What would your advice be to somebody who's in that place?
So I'm going to go back a step a little bit. If you're in that position and you're playing around in ChatGPT to see if it's going to fix your marketing, stop. Because it's not your zone of genius, not really the best use of your time, because that tends to be the bit that go, we're doing marketing. I'm doing some posts. No. Um, I think the first thing to recognize is that marketing covers so many different areas that if you're going to events and networking, that is a form of marketing as well. You're doing it yourself. If
Yep.
then you're trying to implement all the other stuff as we've been touching on, that tends to be where the overwhelm happens because you've got to be at your desk and there's all this stuff and you feel like you should be doing everything. So I'm going to put my productivity hat on for a second. Stop and take a step back and work out what it is that you're trying to achieve. We're going to go back to that objective and the strategy. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And what's the one thing, if you're doing it all yourself, what's the one thing that you can focus on and focus on that? Put everything else in a waiting room. I don't put them on a to-do list. I put them on a will-do list. Because if you put 20 things on your will-do list for the month and you say you're going to implement all this marketing stuff, you're setting yourself up to fail straight away and you will fall out of love with marketing because you're trying to do too much and none of it works. So if you are doing it all yourself and you're trying to do all these other bits and pieces as well, choose one thing that you're going to focus on and get that working. And that comes back to just being productive with your time.
Yeah.
I would also, again, I've really got into my productivity head here, but I think it's important. Time track everything that you're doing in your day to day, because I will guarantee you that there's a couple of hours each day where you're just scrolling, procrastinating, as I call it, a bit of fapping, a bit of procrastinating, not really doing much.
That needs to go on a
They're hours.
t-shirt. Procrastinating. I like that.
I love it. Um, I'm pretty sure you could find some time back, and whether that is then to implement something or start putting together what that looks like if you were to hire.
Yeah.
Find that time because I can guarantee you there'll be hours within your week where you think you're doing something and you're moving stuff around a screen.
Yeah.
So that's where I'd go with the overwhelm. I'm going to go practical productivity tips with that one.
Yeah. So we love everybody being in the Tech Tribe forum, but maybe cut your time in the forum to half hour instead of 3 hours. Then we could buy that time or on Reddit. So I know I'm casting, throwing some shade on the folks out there, but I think, yeah, I've coached enough people too as well that tell me they don't have time for I just don't have time to do the
Mhm.
marketing. It's an excuse. Like
And if you
it's not a
haven't got
goal.
the time, find that budget to hire
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
someone.
I'm with you. You can find an hour or 2 hours in a given month to document the process and then go hire somebody. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So I'm going to
Absolutely.
switch one gears. Alan asked a question in the chat. So it's similar, but I think it also leads to another kind of a misappropriation of marketing assistant. So I think it kind of falls in this realm as well. He said, what about a sales assistant, a person to follow up on leads coming from marketing? So what would your advice maybe, again, kind of what we talked about in admin doing marketing stuff, a marketing person doing sales stuff. What are your recommendations there?
I'm actually interested to hear Andrea's thoughts on this one.
Same thing.
Yeah, so
Go ahead,
I
Andrea.
mean, I've seen it done both ways. So I've seen it where you've got the marketing assistant doing follow-up calls on like a campaign, but that's more or less to just sort of call and say, hey, we sent you this mail piece, want to make sure you got it. And it's more that kind of conversation, sort of not necessarily appointment setting or sales follow-up. It's really more campaign follow-up. So in that sense, I think it's probably okay. I wouldn't I wouldn't expect them to do any kind of sales specific type follow-up. I would not cross that line because I think a salesperson and a marketing person are two very different
Yes.
people. You're asking something very different from them. And I know personally, I'm a marketing person and I'm a good marketing person. I am not a salesperson and I don't want to be a salesperson. So don't ask me to be. So that's my answer. I don't know. What about you, Claire?
Yeah, I am exactly. Do know that there are some MSPs that will have a sales admin person who sometimes they bring in to help the marketing assistant on that level. But again, it's at that point where they're just checking something's arrived rather than the appointment setting side.
Right.
I'm a millennial. You can't get me on a phone call. I will stick to my marketing. Try and get me on a sales call. No. And it's not where my zone of genius is.
Yeah.
They work nicely together. And I think if you've got both departments or both people, allow them to communicate and make sure that process flows. But I agree, they're two separate people for the full process.
And I think it's very two different sides of the brain. What I've come to find, salespeople use the completely different side of the brain than a creative person. So yeah, Andrea, I think you touched on that, like that you're asking them to do something that they are not. They don't want to do first of all, and that they're never probably ever going to be good at. So I think that for me would be the takeaway as an MSP. So there's three distinct roles from what we talked about today. If you're going to hire just a regular admin, just an office admin, maybe to do email, filing, whatever that is, accounting, that's different. Second one would be a marketing assistant. And I think the third, touching on Alan's, would be a sales assistant or admin. See, I would say that's kind of what I would, again, three different buckets of skill sets, three different buckets of pay level, if you will, too. Again, pay for somebody that's going to file emails and take care of my inbox is totally different than somebody doing marketing or the sales admin. So, Claire, you shared a ton with us today. Let me go ahead and check the chat, make sure there aren't any additional questions. If you're still watching this, I think, Claire, I'm going to go back and rewind this. We're going to timestamp everything just because you shared a lot of things and have a very broad perspective, with talking with tech tribers and doing the tech tribal meetups, especially. You kind of have your ear to the ground as to those common challenges that MSPs would have. So thank you. Thank you.
No, I hope it's been valuable. Yeah.
Oh, very much. Thank you.
So
very welcome.
How would people follow up with you, Claire, if they wanted to maybe interact a little bit more, or maybe hire your services, or just what's the best way for somebody to engage with you?
Yeah, best place is probably to go ahead and find me on LinkedIn. It's quite easy to find. I think there's only one of me. So yeah, search for Claire Jenks on LinkedIn and I will pop up.
There is the one and only Claire Jenks. So
yeah.
Right.
Claire, thank you so much. We want to be respectful of your time. We appreciate it. I'm glad we got to do this stream together. I think it's a great topic, and I think leading into as we go into the fourth quarter, I think it's back to school time here in the United States, and I think a lot of people are coming off from putting back on the, the business suit and getting back into work mode as September approaches. So I think it's a great time to start, maybe looking for that marketing assistant.
Those
Or
college kids are back looking for internships, maybe.
yeah, for sure. So
Yeah,
Claire, thank you
definitely.
so much for being with us today. We really, really appreciate it. You get the air horn and the
Yes,
clap.
love it. No, thank you both and everyone else very much indeed. It's been
Awesome.
awesome.
We'll see you inside the tribe, Claire.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I'll see you
Claire.
there.
All right.
Thanks.
Andrew, that was a good one. I like that one.
So good.
I have so many scribbled notes down here on the pad on my desk. I think it's just
Great information.
thank you for coming up with that topic too, because I think that is one of those topics that we have all these resources. You've been hightailing getting campaigns out for people to be able to use in Growably and getting the marketing materials out. So I think it's a great place for people to be able to maybe watch this first before you start going into your marketing efforts if they're coming from ground zero. So any other recommendations you can think of from today's show that for the tribe to take away?
I think one of the biggest takeaways that she said multiple times was, making sure you start with your goal in mind and really step back to
Yeah.
have a strategy and a goal in place before you do anything. I think that's really important. Understand what you want to accomplish before you set forth to do the things.
Yeah. And I think, part of that strategy process is coming up with, it's something I neglected for a long time. We talk about, knowing who you're selling to. I know that we did a 30-day growth map. That course is in the tribe. Any other resources you can think of that are in the tribe for somebody to get that process? Because if you hire
I
a
think
marketing
that's a really
admin
good one
without
to
doing
start.
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
because
marketing foundations workshop is always a good one as well. Yeah.
yeah. So that's an important place to start. You got with the strategy. You have to know who you're selling
Mhm.
to before you hire a marketing admin to come execute that strategy. So yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Definitely.
tons of resources, folks. Andrea, it's noon. It's time for me to have some lunch. I know Claire she's going to be jet setting in the van this evening, so hopefully she doesn't get blown away there in northern Scotland. But yeah, my wife's going to be super jealous when she finds out too. So she's always wanted to go
Yep.
to
Quite an
Scotland and
adventurous
Iceland.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we appreciate it. So those of folks who are watching on the
Awesome.
live stream, thank you so much for being here. Let us know whether or not you found this topic valuable. Do you want to see us do more topics around marketing? Maybe get into the weeds a little deeper on strategies. Whatever you want to learn about, we want to know. If there's somebody you want us to interview, I think we're looking for somebody for November. I think that's our
November.
November. So if you
Mhm.
have someone that you'd like to see us interview for the November Tribal Fireside Chat, let us know as well. So that's going to wrap it for us. We've got the monthly growth clinic next week. I think it's on the 28th.
The 29th.
29th at
Mhm.
11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll see you next week. We got lots of stuff to cover on Growably and setups and show and tell. We're going to do some show and tell inside of Growably next week. So, all right. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. And we will see you all on the next live stream. Take care. See ya.
See you later.